doing this weekend. Just think about the threads of everything that we've done this weekend and try and think it back to its source. And for a moment, if you will, feel that thread. Don't just think about it, but feel it. Because that's what Om is about, feeling the connection, not just talking about it, but feel it. And so for me, that's what really got me really on fire, because I know that we do have to stand up against corporations like Abitibi and Weyerhaeuser, no doubt about it. And we have to stand up against really corrupt governments and really violent governments, no doubt about it. But as we stand up to these corporations and these governments, we also have to look at ourselves. How are we being a part of the problem, or how are we being a part of the solution? And so it's not about judgment, and it's not about, oh, shame on you, or better than thouism. We have this joke in my community of activists called granolier than thou. Oh yeah? Well, I. Oh yeah? Well, I. It's not about being granolier than thou. It's about really finding joy in life and celebration, and knowing that every moment of every day we can be positive, healing change agents in the world instead of unconscious, destructive ones. And so instead of it being like, oh no, now I've got to think about this too, it's like this joy that comes from knowing that something as simple as what I put on the end of my fork can be a revolutionary act. That how we eat, it's one of the things I love about this festival. Organic food, vegetarian food, people are working really hard so that we're all a part of the solution by being here this weekend and not being a part of the problem. And literally what we've put on the ends of our forks this weekend has been an embodiment of Om, has been an actualization of Om. And of course, a lot of these things I'm talking about are really based around privilege. So I always have to acknowledge that those of us, the more privilege we have, the more responsibility we have. And so often people will say, well, I'm kind of poor, I don't have any privilege. And I always like to remind us that anytime we have a choice between A and B, we have privilege in that choice. And then some of us get like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and on and on and on. And so for the more privileges we have, the more responsibility we have to use those privileges in a way that support our world and heal our world and bring our world back to balance. So this weekend is also about creativity and the ways that we can use creativity in changing the world. And I'll tell you, creativity is powerful, because after the World Trade Organization protest in Seattle, I was in the tree during that time. I was like the center hub. All these people in Seattle, when they couldn't find each other, would call me in the tree and like leave messages for other people. I was the message board of WTO in Seattle. And, but after I came down, there was the protest in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia and Los Angeles. And the first thing the police did at every one of those protests was find out where the puppets were being made and went and arrested the puppets. That's the power of creativity, right? Part of it is it's like this language that speaks beyond our issues and our isms and our own, like, okay, that person's a hippie and that person's a punk and that person's a freak and that person's, it's like creativity just kind of starts wiggling its way through all of that stuff and creates this language that people can relate to. And so creativity is really, really powerful, and that's part of the joy of coming together this weekend is the various ways which we can express our beliefs and our commitment to the world. And so I thought I would read a couple of poems, and then I have something for you to do, because it's not about me, it's about us. Let's see, what did I do with it? Sorry. So this first poem, I picked a couple poems, and I wasn't sure which ones I'd read, but I tried to pick poems that to me speak to some aspect of Om. And so this first one is about this belief of us and them, the belief of isms, like all the, you fit in a label, you fit in a box. I get called granola munching, tree hugging, radical extremist, wacko, hippie, foo-foo, new ager, stuff like that. And so those kind of things, those labels and boxes that we put on us separate us from that connection. So this is a poem about how separation is really an illusion. I am not who I thought you were. Peculiar though it sounds, the separation is all just an illusion of our own mind, anyway. The pen, blocked from the words, holds me back so many times. Fear of my heart opening keeps me from breaking, at least in my mind, anyway. I make believe I'm strong as solid on the outside, but I'm soft as sand on the inside. While I'm pouring my soul out to you, the time of myself slips through my fingers, and before I know it, my life is through. What am I afraid of, anyway? I am not 100,000 things or more tied in a bundle of beliefs. I am prisms of cosmic light, learning to dance in the night. From stars to dust in the stratosphere, and dust to stars so far away from here. I am merely a form flowing, a momentary knowing that will be blown in the breeze of eternity's trajectory. So that's about dissolving the illusion. Things. That's a poetic way of, for me, expressing part of what I feel Om is. But ultimately, that poetic way, for me, has to turn into action. And so for me, love and consciousness is not just about feeling really good, although it is about that. It's about really holding ourselves accountable to the world we want to live in. And so to bring it to a close, I'd like to ask you all to think about storytelling and how powerful storytelling is in our lives. That there's something about the personal of telling stories that makes information so much more interesting. And then imagine, if you will, that your life is a story, because it is. And take a moment to think about it from day one. A reporter with a camera and a tape recorder and a pen and paper were following you around, recording your actions. What would the story of your life look like? Where would it have been beautiful and giving and kind, and where might it have strayed off the path of consciousness some? Where might it have become the product of a society that teaches us that we are products? So as you take a moment to think about that, think about if tomorrow you were told that you had one day left to live. What would you want to do with your life to close the chapter of your book? What would you want to do with your life that final page would be the last part of your story in this world? Because you are creating a story. We're all creating a story every moment of every day. And I know from my interactions with some of the organizers of this event that it's about creating a new story in the world, one where community celebrates and honors diversity. A new story of where consciousness is implemented every step of the way, where it's about creativity and love and joy. That's the story they're trying to create. So if you had one last day, what would you like that last page to say? And then I would like for you to turn around to someone you don't know. This is my preacher dad coming out of me. And really find somebody you don't know, because so often we come to events like this and we spend so much time like with the people we came with, and we miss this opportunity to meet all these really fabulous people. I mean, look around. There's some really fabulous people here. You're all really fabulous. I keep unplugging this. So I'd like for you really to pick someone you don't know, and then the first thing I'd like for you to think about and then tell, and then you can, take a turn, and you don't have to do this because we honor your diversity. You miss the chance on meeting somebody new. And I also find that when we give voice to our thoughts, it creates a seed of intention that makes it easier to follow through on. So also the reason I want to do this is because so often I'm given the microphone to talk, and so very little do we have chances to really share our thoughts and feelings with others. And so I recognize that I have a form of privilege being on this stage, and I like to, in my own way, create a space for you all to have a moment and an opportunity to find your voice and share it. So the first question I'd like for you to think about, those of you who want to participate, is things that you know you do that are conscious and loving and healing in the world. Something that this person who you don't know, something that would be about that last chapter of your book, something that if you had your moment to shine, you'd be like, this is who I am. I know I do this really well. I know this helps the world. So I'd like for you to feel what it feels like, because so often our society teaches us a lot of negative things and it gets pushed into our bodies. And so with this Om Festival about expressing everything that's beautiful about us, if you want to, turn to someone you don't know, and both of you take a moment to tell each other about something that you do in the world that you know is about healing and supporting and nurturing a just and healthy world. Okay? Ding!